One Piece chapter 1009. We're here to break it down and talk about a bit more things than we did in the discussion. The official translations are out, so that gives us a bit more context and a bit more ways to dissect it. Something that has to be said and something that I've been saying is that the scans recently has just felt better. Either way, we support the official as well. But for right now, it's about One Piece chapter 1009, okay? So let's talk about this color spread really quickly. Typically with these color spreads, people try to make theories about what's gonna happen, and normally they're wrong, right? There was one about Zoro back in the day where, based on a color spread and a chapter that was in a color spread, people thought Zoro was going to die, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. So when the chapter number came around that was on a color spread and Zoro didn't die, people were like, well, why would you put that there, Oda? I don't know, because he feels like it. The theory that people are jumping to is that Tama could become a Straw Hat because she's running away with Luffy's Straw Hat. I love Tama, but I don't think she's a candidate to join the crew, even though it would be cool having, her, Momonosuke as the two, apprentices, if you want to say, on the crew. Although I don't think that's the case. Beautiful cover spread though. Normally we compare Nami and Robin to see who's hotter. I think Oda does that. I think Oda has that game where it's like, okay, I'll make one hotter than the other based on the cover spread. And this one I think is a tie because we can't see too much. Overall, it is beautiful. And having Tama's teapot in here after the explosive theory about Tama's teapot being Odin, I'm like, did Oda see the theories that were floating around and decide to troll us? Well, not me, because, that wasn't my theory. But whatever, let's talk about chapter 1009. First though, subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Drop a like as well, I would certainly appreciate it. And without further ado, let's go. This is part of the chapter that a lot of people did not even talk about or didn't care about as much because, again, the second half was involving the rooftop. So it is understandable. However, we got to talk about it, right? It's important. So the castle is on fire and they're dousing the fire and trying to put it out. And at this moment, we see Kinemon and the rest of the Scabbards, excluding Ashura Doji, obviously Kanjuro and Inuyarashi. They're meeting with Orochi and Fukurokuju. It's weird because at first when I was reading the chapter, everyone was saying, where is Izo? And if you look carefully, Izo is there, just not as prominent as the others. However, they come face to face with Orochi, and this happened a lot sooner than I thought, which does give me the idea that Wano may end sooner than I thought because I expected this interaction a bit later. But regardless, they met. And Fukurokuju gave him good advice, like, yo, just run away, I'll take care of it. But Orochi doesn't want to run away because he understands the position that he's in, where he has little to no allies. Fukurokuju might be his only ally at this point, right? But he says Kaido has beaten him up, right? So he can probably take him now. And then he's talking smack to them about Kanjuro and talking about Kyosho and how good he is at deception. And then he transforms like he's about to defeat all of them. Like, I think because he has a devil fruit that somewhat looks like Kaido, he thinks he's Kaido, but then he gets slaughtered by all of them, right? Well, not all of them, because I don't see Izo cutting one of the heads off, but everyone that's a swordsman that's there, they cut a head off. They then say he'll be judged in hell, and remember the chapter was called Hell. In the last chapter, Luffy said he's been to hell and back. So Oda is playing with this hell theme a bit. One of the things when I think of hell in One Piece, somebody that I think about is Zoro. So it's really interesting that Zoro had a prominent role in this chapter. Although the form of Zoro that I think of did not make an appearance, but I really expect it to. The banter back and forth, like I mentioned in the discussion, has been top tier. Raizo and Fukurokuju now at this point, where Raizo says, you show such devotion to a dead fool, and Fukurokuju responds and says, I could say the same thing about all of you. And they're both spitting facts. Where Fukurokuju is showing crazy devotion to Orochi, even though it seems like it's over for him, while Raizo and the Scabbards, we know the devotion they have to Odin. So this part, it was interesting to move the story along. However, it pales in comparison to the other part of the chapter, which we're going to focus on a lot more. Back to the rooftop now. Big Mom and Kaido, it seems like they're playing with their food. And now they're just testing things. And because of that confidence, they feel like the supernova can't compete. So before they send their attack, Kid asked Law, can he just use his powers to send one of them away? And Law says, I would have done it already if I could. Their haki is too strong. I can't move them directly. And then Kid says, fine, we can just tear them apart. So one thing I want to say, this clears up a lot of things with Law's powers. Now, again, we could have presumed in the past that this was the case with Law, that a lot of things were limited based on how strong others' haki was. And again, I will delve into that in a separate video. But this is confirmation that based on someone's haki, Law can't even move them. There's a meme going around about Law and his sword where he hasn't used his sword the entire time while being on the rooftop. But with Law's sword, it was basically a way for him to use his devil fruit more efficiently or better. there, where the sword was just used congruently with the devil fruit. So at this point, if he can't do the basic thing of moving them directly, he can't cut any of them. So right now, Law's sword is somewhat useless. Devil fruit versus Haki has always been a topic of conversation. I think based on this revelation, it does lean me towards Haki being better than devil fruits, but I do think Oda is doing a pretty good job of balancing things now, because the Haki is not necessarily nullifying, as I had stated before. It's not necessarily nullifying, it's just a great counter. So again, while we presumed this was the case with Haki and how it worked, I liked the clarification. I think Oda knows this, that he never clarified this, so have it clarified here, I think is huge. Some people don't think it's that big of a deal, but I think this is great for future interactions when things work and don't work, and when somebody has what we may presume to be Hack's powers, it's like, okay, is this person's Haki strong enough to withstand that? A conversation we'll have for sure a bit later. So Big Mom and Kaido, they have banter back and forth. Luffy says heads up, they're going to do something big. I would have liked a moment where Luffy saw exactly what was going to happen and then he said it, so then it'd be like, okay, well, Luffy's using future sight now, which is inconsistent in the fight, but he just got his Haki back, so I guess he's, you know, trying to maintain that. But Big Mom and Kaido, they're having quick banter back and forth, but that does not stop them from using Ocean Sovereignty, which is a combination attack. Now, the surprising thing here and the epic thing in this moment is that this is the first time we've seen an attack of this magnitude. We were comparing Heaven and Earth to this attack, Heaven and Earth being Whitebeard's attack where he grabs the air and just turns everything on its head, but that attack seems to be more AoE as opposed to focused. AoE meaning area of effect, which it could be labeled as more powerful because of how much area it affects, but this one is more focused and condensed, so it could obliterate a lot of people. Zoro stepped in front of it, and the amazing thing here is that he wasn't completely obliterated and he stopped it momentarily. The thing here we have to understand though is that Zoro did not completely block this attack, but I see people using the fact that he didn't to downplay this moment, and I see some people using the fact that he did to, you know, say Zoro is the strongest ever. Well, not strongest ever, but that's hyperbole, but for the most part, they're saying things that just aren't true. We have to keep this where it is. It was an amazing moment, maybe a top 5 feat in One Piece, and Oda continues to prove why I think Zoro is his favorite character. I'm like, come on. But Zoro doing this gave Law enough time to move them all out of the way. People saying, how did you see that? Well, if you look at the panels and based off of Kid's dialogue, I think it's pretty clear. Something that was also a conversation was Kaido, where people were saying, does Kaido have the voice of all things? I'm not going there yet. I'm leaning towards just observation Haki. This could be a thing where Oda is playing with the word voices, and that eventually he's going to give us some more insight on the voice of all things by the end of the arc. So for right now, I'm just going to say Kaido is using observation Haki, which is interesting because this might be one of the first times confirmed that Kaido's used Haki, because a lot of times for these monsters, it seems like their Haki is always active, where they don't even have to activate it. It's just always working. Like Big Mom, she has a outer protection, and the only time that's broken is when mentally she's not there with the Mother Carmel thing. And for Kaido, with him not being able to die, being very difficult to penetrate him, it seems like he's the same way. But of course, with Law not being able to move them, that shows just how powerful or impressive their Haki is, armament Haki mostly. And now Kaido's using observation Haki, and we know they have Conqueror's Haki. So these are the perfect specimens. Do they have advanced armament, like with Luffy and Rayleigh and those things? I'm leaning towards no, because they don't need it. However, we'll talk about the next level that could be implied in this chapter as well. And that goes back to Kaido's exchange with Luffy, where now Kaido is dodging Luffy's attacks, and Luffy's asking him, like, why are you dodging? Because it will hurt? We can jump to the conclusion that Kaido is starting to take damage because of the accumulation. But I think we can look at another point. Kaido's in a new form, his hybrid form, which I would assume his defensive mechanisms are not as powerful as in his dragon form or even his regular human form. But that's an assumption. This could just be the accumulation of damage like we were talking about. But this exchange between Kaido and Luffy made me feel so much better about the hybrid in regards to what it can do, because they were fighting the hybrid for a while Luffy was out, and they seem to be relatively okay. I think this shows just how devastating the hybrid form can be. Kaido seamlessly moved between attacks, where he ended with a 3 realms Ragnarok, and the attack, as you know, noticed by so many people, reminded them of Roger and Whitebeard, where the Haki is leaking from their weapon. So now I'm thinking, could we see an attack or clash at some point between Luffy and Kaido where they're not even touching, right? Could we see that at some point? Because even Kaido and Big Mom, they were touching. So I wonder if Oda would even explain that. But this got me so hyped for Kaido. I mean, Ragnarok was just beautiful. We can't see what Luffy is doing here, but he could be blocking, could be using Rio. However, if he took this blow head on, he should be very, very hurt, but we'll see. The combination attack from the supernova is one of the best we've seen in the series, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. They managed to remove Zeus and Prometheus from Big Mom, but the thing is, Kid places Zeus in a cage, and then I received a comment by an engineer who told us just how impressive this was as opposed to Zeus being in a box, and I'll read it here. And this was by Vulcan Varel, and he says, as an engineering major, they didn't put Zeus in a box so he couldn't escape. Kid made that box so it's a Faraday cage, which basically means that something of pure electrical power like Zeus couldn't escape from the inside, as a Faraday cage puts all the electrical charge immediately on the outside. It was just pure genius. Lovely from Oda. So thank you so much for that comment, because I think for Kid, a lot of the things that he's doing could be downplayed, but this is a way where we're seeing just how smart Kid can be, because Kid is, you know, an engineer, and creating something like this means he can somewhat change his metal and the form of his metal. So I'm excited for his future, and obviously was something that they planned, because Kid told Law it's ready. Law used Room, got Zeus from Big Mom. We had Zoro attacking Prometheus, Killer attacking Napoleon, and Napoleon just running away saying he's normal. Like, can you imagine a sword running away just saying, yo, I'm just chill, bro, relax. And all this led to Kid baiting Big Mom by attacking her, knowing that these things wouldn't work. She attacks Kid, he takes damage straight on, manages to attach his arm to her, repel her. Law uses tact with a big boulder and knocks her off of the rooftop. I think that's a top tier combination, and it was so beautiful to watch, mainly because there were little to no complaints about how Big Mom got defeated. Because this wasn't about Big Mom being incompetent. This was about the supernova showing top tier teamwork and just being so damn amazing. So is Big Mom done here? I do not know. Now, people have been requesting for me to make a prediction video, even though we have no break next week. We'll see. I might, because this chapter just had so many things that I want to expound upon outside of just this chapter, but the future based on what happened. So we'll see. But is Big Mom done? What happens to the supernova? Because Luffy seems to have taken a lot of damage. Zoro is coughing up blood. What really happens now? What happens? Because it could be over. Overall, an amazing chapter. One of the best chapters of Wano, I think. Or if not one of the best chapters of Wano, I would say probably a top 2 or 3 chapter on the rooftop for sure, which the rooftop has been spectacular. So that translates to, you know, one of the best chapters in Wano. But guys, give me your thoughts. How did you feel about everything that happened in this chapter? I'm still amazed. I'm still losing my mind. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. We'll talk about Zoro really soon though, because there's a truth about Zoro that we have to talk about. And I think it can be more clear in this chapter. But guys, give me your thoughts. Make sure to like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BragoD.Ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate all you guys so much. Guys, like, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
I start doubting me, I felt lost. I rewrite it.
There's 4 niggas walking up and it's just me. Now it's just 3. Now it's just 2. Now it's just me.